I would like pull out the Italian dictionary and point to words, and they'd be like, "Nope." They'd be like a German airport would be like, "We need to see the passport." And like in Naples, they're like, whatever. If I just didn't open my mouth, I fit it. So as soon as I was like, they'd be like, "Oh, I'm done with you." Ask the tough questions.
Is it rolling? Oh my gosh, I suddenly don't know what I'm doing.
What if we live stream it instead?
People are asking for live streams. They would love it.
Uncut.
I don't. All right, I'm Danielle Romero, and I'm here with my brother Chris, who's visiting for Christmas.
That's right.
I don't know where you live, actually.
I don't know.
He's lived in a couple different countries, a lot of states, also a boat at one point.
That's true.
A boat that was not moored.
Boats.
It was out. You're the only brother that I haven't sat down and talked to about family stuff. So before we start, I always like to ask, I asked Justin and Luke this. Growing up, tell me what you believed in your heart about like who you were and our heritage, or what you saw.
Well, we always knew that the Italians were the best because Dad always reminded us that. So I feel like we were strong on the Italian vibe. But then we did have the wild card of Mom's side of the family and Grammy, and we never quite knew what the exact heritage was growing up.
But you believed it to be.
But we believed that we were Italian and French and Irish.
And it was over 100% when we did that. It was like 50% Irish, 50% Italian, and then also French.
On the European migration
Yeah.
to New York. That's like a strong story that everyone could get behind.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a lot of Italian thread in there.
There's a ton of
And Dad's family was Italian, and we knew that.
Yeah, and they still are.
Yeah.
They still are. Mom's changed.
After investigation, that did remain true.
That proved true. So you went to Italy. I don't remember when you went to Italy. It was like at least 5 years ago.
More than that. I don't remember either. I think it was probably 10 or 11 years ago.
Okay. So tell me, because I haven't gone. No, Dad talks about going all the time, but he hasn't gone either. Why did you go, and how did you figure that out? And like, I wanted to set the stage for like, how does that even happen? Because you went by yourself and you met up with family over there.
I did.
That we've never talked.
Extended relatives.
Okay, so how did that happen?
Going back one step to how I ended up getting to Italy was after college, I went to Hawaii to learn how to do regenerative farming.
And hydroponics.
Hydroponics and permaculture and all that.
Yeah.
And I met a group of people there who had like a really cool community of like farming. They had like, I don't know, 50 people living on this like giant, really cool farm property.
I remember you did that.
In the southern part of the Big Island. So it was like in a lava zone, and it was like a really crazy cool area.
So cool.
So I became friends with them, moved to other places on the island, but stayed like in a good relationship, friendship with them as I did other stuff. And this one woman, Dana, who I became friends with there, she's like an older woman, but she saw that I was really good with cameras and like websites and video stuff. And she worked with like a sister community in Italy. And so like a year later, she invited me to come work on this other community in Italy and help them with filming and like websites and stuff like that. And at the time, I didn't really have a job, so I thought that was interesting. And I was like, so you're basically telling me I can come to Italy and you're going to like pay for me to get there and live there all summer and like blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm in.
Right.
So that's how it all came into my head. And then I was like, wait, I actually have relatives there that I've never seen or visited. And
we didn't even know.
Yeah, no one had ever been in there in the whole family. I still think hasn't. No. So I thought that it'd be cool to try to like, while I'm there, meet them and make some connection or link there. And so that's kind of how it all started.
Okay, so who are they? I literally don't even know. Are they still like...
So I'm in touch with some of the younger kids, but these are all extended relatives.
So like grandpa's cousin's kids or something?
Maybe even like farther down than that.
But they are related to grandpa.
Yeah. So how I ended up finding them or getting in touch with them is
you can't wait.
Grandpa's brother John
I just excited.
stayed and like lived and worked in Italy like even after his family came to the States. So grandpa's older brother,
Okay. I don't think I knew that.
he lived in Italy, and so he
So he
became
was born here though, and he
yeah
went back over
he
there.
went back to Italy,
Okay.
and he was really close with this guy named John Ravetti. I'm pretty sure that was his name. So
Rosetti.
Ravetti.
Yeah.
So though they were all, he was like, Ravetti was like a family friend, and he would interpret and like read the letters and stuff that like family members would send over to grandpa, and so like they knew how to like communicate back and forth. So he was like our link to the extended family in Italy. And basically he's the one that I talked to who helped me get in touch with them as well.
Okay, so you were with, did you stay with them?
Yeah.
Okay, is there a house there that was like grandpa? So our grandpa, I think he inherited a house or property
Yeah,
that was
he
in
did.
Italy, but he's in the United States, so he like had them take care of it or something.
Yeah, so grandpa's brother John had a property in the Amalfi Coast, I'm pretty sure, but he like sold that or something. And then he had another property when he passed away in Durazzano.
Okay, I think that's where his dad's from.
Yeah,
Okay, so did you go there?
I did.
You
And-
did?
Yeah.
That's
Durazzano is a funny little mountain town, like 45 minutes outside of Italy. In the mountains, like super small. There's like a cathedral and like little townspeople. It's like Italy's very small, like outside of the big tourist areas.
Okay, so you went there. Were there people who knew our family there?
Yeah.
Or right now?
Yeah, they knew our last name.
They knew?
Yeah.
So okay, so okay. Did you know Italian or do you enough? Or was it like the dialect?
After spending some time with them there, I could like get around and go out sometimes and like meet. Like it depends on where you are in Italy, because formal Italian is like 40 years old as a language. Like all of Italy is just like kings fighting with each other, and so there's like a million different dialects, and like this is my way of life, etc. So like where I was, kind of like south and east of Naples, super heavy dialect. I would like pull out the Italian dictionary and point to words, and they'd be like, "Nope." They'd be like, "What's that?" And I was like,
no.
"I'm totally screwed."
If Italian doesn't work here, what do I do?
couldn't speak fluent Italian anyway, but then I had to learn their weird like words, which was hilarious.
Okay, so tell me like the expectation of going over there. What did you expect it to be? And like when you got there,
I had literally no idea. So I planned to meeting them before I was supposed to like go work for the summer with these other people. So I like got there early, and my plan was to spend like a month there. Probably spent longer.
with that family?
Yeah.
Wow.
I do remember getting to, where did I fly into? Oh, okay, this is really fun. I flew into Amsterdam.
Okay.
And then from Amsterdam, I got to Rome. And then from Rome, I took a train to Napoli. And I have no idea who I'm meeting. I don't know what anyone looks like. I have like a weird piece of paper with different people's names on it. So I get to the train station. I don't know anything. I don't know Italian. Don't know who I'm looking for. And I just thought it was all hilarious. And so I'd like walk around being like, Biagio, Biagio. And people were like, no, dog, definitely not Biagio.
So is that who? I remember hearing that name from Grandpa. Like
Yeah.
that Biagio, I don't know who he is.
Right.
But he was like a
So
person that
this-
was still alive over there.
Guy Ravetti was friends with the family. He was friends with our family and the Biagios, which were grandpa's cousins, basically. So I basically ended up meeting one of grandpa's cousins.
That's so
And
crazy.
their last name is Biagio.
Okay, so like tell me in my mind until I start researching this, like Italy is what it was here for Italians in like the 1920s or something. But when I'm talking to people in Italy now, they're like, well, we've moved on from that, but like Americans still think that's Italian culture. And they're like, we're not doing that anymore. Like it's not like, but you were in a really tiny village. Did it feel Italian to you, like in your mind what Italian is, or was it just
Oh,
like,
yeah. I mean, there's a very Catholic heavy country, obviously. So, like, every little corner or, like, switchback mountain road, there's, like, a statue of like Jesus or like the Madonna or like something, and they like spend a lot of time like bringing candles to it and hanging out.
Grandpa had a statue. I feel like he had it. It was like a necklace he wore. It was like
Yeah.
Saint Joseph or something like that. But I don't know anything. But I remember it was like an Italian.
Yeah, they're really into that. So that was like funny to experience. And it's like, especially in the countryside, it's super small towns. Like we would go get like, you know, pillowcases or bags or plastic bags or whatever. Like people are kind of poor, but they knew where all the food was planted. So there'd be like abandoned houses or old abandoned orchards. Like Italy for thousands of years, all they did was plant food. So you can go into like a street in Rome and pick fruit off a tree and it's like edible.
That's wild. And
Yeah,
allowed to do that.
totally.
And that's just like the
So we would go in the mountains. We'd get like arugula. We would get grapes, oranges, lemons, all sorts of like crazy wild food.
Did you learn to make something there?
like what's the thing?
Oh, yeah.
Or was there something real like, oh, I thought we did it this way? And I was like, doing that. That's not
We
Italian.
probably spent like 4 days making sauce, which was hilarious. So I went in the summertime, and every summer, the Biagios and like other people, they get tomatoes delivered to their house. So I was like, okay, we're doing tomatoes, we're doing sauce this day. Like I barely know, I'm just hanging on by a thread. So they're like, we're doing sauce. I'm like, great. And then this like truck arrives, and there's like maybe 1,000 kilos of tomatoes.
Raw tomatoes
Yeah.
in a basket?
Like
Or
San
like-
Marzano tomatoes that you make, sauce.
So they got a big delivery, got an Amazon
huge,
Prime of
huge
tomatoes.
delivery, and there's like baskets and crates of tomatoes. And so we set up this whole workstation in the driveway of like their little house. So we had like a 55-gallon barrel that was heated up with a propane thing, so they were like boiling water. Then
Outside.
we boiled like in batches, boil the tomatoes and then peel off like the skin.
Yeah.
And then all the tomatoes would go in like a hand crank
Oh,
juicer.
yeah.
So we were like smashing the tomatoes in there, basically juicing them. And then we'd collect all the juice and then bottle it in glass bottles.
The
and
juice.
then, that's like what sauce is in Italy. It's like
Oh,
juice.
really?
Yeah. It's definitely different than
So
here.
what do they do with like the leftovers?
Discard it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's basically tomato juice. Then they put it in glass bottles, cap it, boil it, and then they store it away. And like that's their sauce for the year. So we did like 4
Sauce
days
for the year.
Yeah. we did 4 days of
Sauce.
just tomatoing, and it was hilarious.
So
That was actually really fun.
how did it taste? Like
Amazing.
it really, this is probably so fresh.
Italian, to answer your question, like one of the things that's not like Italian stuff that we do here is like their food's very simple.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of money. The country's not, very wealthy in general, but they have tons of food, and their raw ingredients are amazing. So like a dish is like super simple. It's like pasta, like tomato juice. They make a simple sauce, like some lemon and wine, and like they have like big course meals, but like that's enough.
Not like a really like fancy.
Yeah, it's not.
That's good.
It's not like crazy fancy stuff.
Tell me about fitting in there as an American, because I think a lot of Americans, and I'm learning this, is that like Italian Americans in particular, we think that we're really Italian, and the Italians are looking at us and laughing because they're like, "Well, you're American. You don't realize how American you are."
Yeah.
What was it like? Like how did that feel being an American? Like, did people want to talk to you about it, or be like,
I did
how did it
great
feel?
because if I just didn't open my mouth, I fit it. So as soon as I was like, they'd be like, oh, I'm done with you. But I could like walk around and be like, I actually felt like, I was like, wow, I really feel like I belong here.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, okay.
As long as I didn't talk.
So it is like kind of mind blowing to me because I only learned this a couple weeks ago that one of Marie, Dad's mom, Nana, her dad didn't come over till 1921, which is still like, it's almost 100 years ago, but it seems so recent to have left a country to become American. And it's just weird. Like, I don't feel any connection to Italy. Like I do, but like we don't have any at all. So you felt like, did you think about that while you were there? Did you just like being in Italy? Because some people just like Italy. Or
no,
did you
I love it.
feel like, okay, this is...
No, I felt like I belonged there. I was like, this is definitely home.
That's so
It was
sad
cool.
in a weird way.
Towards the end of my trip, my time was decent enough, but in Rome. Like I went all over. I was in Milan, I was in Napoli, I went to islands, I went to like weird little towns. I spent a lot of time in this town called Assisi, Francis of Assisi. There's like a super famous cathedral there. And everything's built out of these crazy limestones. It's literally a medieval castle city. Incredible. Like in the hill. Like everything is old. There's no super like modern, like there's modern stuff, but it's all
such
like
an old
castle buildings. So I spent a lot of time there. But in central Italy, I could understand people because they spoke formal Italian. So I was like, okay, when I finally got to Rome, I was like, I understand people. I was like, this place is great. And I could actually have fun there because I could.
So
like,
it was a big of a difference for the dialects.
Massive. That's good luck.
Good luck to you.
There's nothing.
Tell
you
me,
can't even figure it out.
There's like a huge gap between Northern Italian and Southern Italian. So like when Dad's grandpas came over here on the ship manifest at Ellis Island, it would say if you were from North or Southern Italy. Like they literally wanted it spelled out. So his family's like Southern Italy, just so you know. Like, no, what did you pick up on that, or was that a thing that like you experienced? Tell me about.
It's an important distinction within their own country.
Yeah.
Because for one, like Italians are very weird in the sense that they're a bubble to their own. No one else speaks Italian anywhere. Like other countries speak Spanish, so you can. It's like so you're in your own bubble, but then like that's not enough for them, so they want to fight. So like they're like, okay, this is like northern and southern, and like Rome is like the line in the middle.
Rome's the line, yeah.
And that's where people like the culture kind of gels. But people in Milan, they have a lot more influence from Austria and Germany and stuff, and they're like, they just have a different way about them. People in southern Italy, like I've never been to India, but when I went to Napoli, I was like, I'm in India. Like,
really? It felt that crazy? Like wild. Totally different?
There's like ladies hanging out of like the second story, like throwing buckets of water in the street, and then a guy's below, he's like chopping up meat, and I'm like, dude, you don't do that. It's like, and then like the tuk-tuk guys are driving on the wrong side of the road.
That's
and then like
crazy.
It's kind of like New York in a sense. You're like, wow, it's really beautiful, and then you look to like your other side, and there's like a 12-foot pile of garbage or something. So Napoli is hilarious.
I've heard some bad stuff actually about Naples. Like I feel like people are kind of harsh.
I'm sure it gets a bad rap. People will steal from you. Someone stole a bag from me on the train, but it was just a bag of sauce that I had that the Biaggios gave me. But I was actually upset. I was like, hey, that was my like work sauce. But like people will definitely steal from you. It's not like in a mean way. We have to worry about your safety, but it's like a lot of pickpockets and trickery. But some of the best food for sure. Everyone knows that.
I just am really surprised. I guess we never really talked about that much, but just feeling at home there in a weird way. Because I think like part of the stuff I've been doing is like, yeah, we're fully American, like 100%. I'm not going to try to pretend I'm not American or whatever. But also just kind of looking and saying we're only a generation removed from these other places that you belong to too, and like how does that work? So like, okay, Dad's side is there, and there's that connection there. Tell me about I mean, I don't know how much you know about Mom's story or whatever. Tell me what you think you know is true about Mom, and I would say Grammy. Let's talk about Marion, Mom's mom, Marion. Like, what at this point do you think is the truth about Grammy?
Yeah. Well, I never was someone that like poked the bear, so I never asked questions. If I was curious, I would just be like, "Oh, that's like interesting," but I'd never like dig.
What a nice person you are. I feel
know.
like
I don't know if that's nice or like just oblivious, like happily oblivious. But Grammy was always a bit of a mystery to everyone, I feel like. And we definitely knew the story she told us, but I don't think we ever knew like the whole picture.
So what do you like think like sitting here right now?
If you had to like get like, I'm not gonna quiz you, but I'm just curious, like what do you know about Grammy? What has changed, I guess, about Grammy's family? Because we literally didn't know anything about Grammy's family. That's not a thing that ever got talked about.
Yeah.
So
well, we knew Grammy's mother was Native American.
Oh, that's what
she said.
Right.
Is that what you heard?
Yeah.
You did? Did Grammy tell you that?
Yeah.
Grammy, let me tell you something. Grammy has told everybody a different thing.
I love that.
Like, I'm serious. Like, Nancy, and
Yeah.
Nancy was like, well, Lola and Grammy told me they were Spanish, and she thought they were from Spain. And I was like, okay, well, Mom got told this other thing. Like, all of them are true, but it was like leaving out all this other stuff. Okay, so I didn't know that she told you that.
Well, I don't know if she told me
Or you
that,
just,
but
like,
that's
what you picked up
that's
on.
what I remember as being true.
Okay, so you lived in Mexico for a little while. Like, you were just there.
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, I definitely lived in Mexico, in Baja California.
So,
I mean, we don't have like we have a lot more of like African heritage than like indigenous Mexican river, but it's definitely there. Like family that went through the missions and then they became Catholic or Christians, and then so their baptisms and stuff are in there. When you were in Mexico, like looking back now, knowing that like you have that heritage too, like do you have that same sense of like I can roll here too, like you did in Italy, or like because you knew in Italy like these are cousins, I know that I have a connection here, and you didn't know that when you were in Mexico.
Yeah. No, living in Mexico was just a way to keep exploring, keep learning Spanish. It was like very accessible from California.
Yeah.
So I was living in Los Angeles on my sailboat at the time, and to drive to the house that I was renting in Mexico was like 3 hours. So it's nothing. Explore, like there are different marinas and docks and lots of like marine life in Baja. And once you're in Mexico, like flying to another city in Mexico is so much cheaper than coming from the States.
Yeah.
So once you're down there, like there's all this stuff.
Did you feel like you could fit in there too, or do you feel like you?
Yeah, I fit in. I mean, I definitely less than being in Italy, because like there I look like I'm supposed to be there. In Mexico, maybe like a foot taller than I should be if I'm trying to fit in. But it was fun to like explore and learn a new language and like keep doing that. And also, there's so much cool stuff in Mexico that most people don't think about. There's just tons to explore. It's a huge country.
So if I'm assuming you want to go back to Italy. Like, are you going to go back?
Yeah, I would definitely want to. So, Grandpa's brother, when he passed away, he gave his property to Grandpa. And when Grandpa passed away, that property went to Dad. And basically all we have of this like house, or the property that he has left, he had other things, but when he passed away, he had a property in Durazzano, which I visited. It's like a small house. There's like an upper level to it. It's not quite like a townhouse, like it's its own thing, but it's not on like a big piece of land or anything. We have like a handwritten deed that was Grandpa's brother's, but the Biagios are like kind of looking. I haven't talked with them in a long time, but it's basically run down and needs like help
Could
to
we
be.
go?
Yeah, we could, but I'm pretty sure we would have to like talk with them because they're kind of
So
We could go right now.
the like keepers of it,
Yeah.
because no one even.
But not to even take it, just like
Yeah.
okay. So this house has been in the family for a while, or like, do you know
Well,
the
yeah,
story
very
of
long
it?
time.
Like, how long do you think?
Decades. It was Grandpa's brothers.
but it's an old house, like old. Or like,
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of beat up. I was there 10 years ago and it was beat up then. So
let's go.
it's an habitable.
Is there an IKEA nearby so we can fix it?
There's probably people that will help you work on it.
Like, you could go to Sicily, because that's the other thing. Like, Dad's family said like they're Sicilian Italian, and you could buy like a house for €1, and it was beat to hell. It was beat, but you could have it, and then you have to put in a lot of money to
Yeah.
fix it. Would you do that?
Yeah.
Did you go to
definitely want-
Sicily?
I didn't go to Sicily, no. I went to Capri. That was one of the islands I went
Yeah.
to. I definitely want to go back. There's a lot more to explore for sure. Italy is a lot of fun, and it's like a really awesome place in Europe that I connect a lot with. But the funny thing about Italians is like they don't want to do anything, and the culture is very much rooted in the generations of the past. And so like the old people don't want anything to change.
Yeah.
And like the new, like younger people, like now with the internet, social media, stuff like that, like slowly things are changing, but they're like begrudging to make any changes. It's not like, let's go to Home Depot and like build stuff and start a business. They're like, no,
let's just chill and make
let's
our sauce.
just chill. So like, it's a wonderful place to visit, but to live as an American, as like entrepreneurial spirit, you might feel some like resistance.
That is so interesting. Because on one hand, because like you're very much like me, like we're like ever since we were kids, like we've started businesses together, didn't go anywhere, but we were starting them and like selling stuff. Like we like to do our thing. But to me, when I've watched stuff about Italy and these old towns, I'm like, it seems so relaxing, like such a slow way of living. But I'm like, that's not who I am like every day. So I don't know, like, how does an American squeeze into an Italian shaped?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely room for innovation there. But even like my friends that live in Italy now, like if they're starting like a health food company or like all these other stuff that may exist here already, and they're trying to bring it there, it's like they're like, it's super hard because people are less open-minded to new things, which makes sense. Like their entire culture is based on their heritage. Like they're very protective of like the culture. That means everything to them. Like, you know, you go to Rome, the cool thing about it is the whole entire city is a museum. Like you can pay to go into different areas and stuff, but just walking around, you're like, wow, I'm in an outdoor history lesson of just like the old city literally right here. And like the new, like you can go in the Parthenon. It's a 2,000-year-old building. You can have lunch in front of it like someone did 1,000 years ago.
Think like, I feel like especially as Americans, we are disconnected from like where we came from, because for most of us, like I know we have ancestors that like were always here, but most of our ancestors came over. And it's like you just cut the ties, you start over. So it's kind of like we just started over in New York in 1920 with no anything behind you. And to think about like the weight of being somewhere that old is as an American.
It is heavy. Their culture is all about preservation because that's all they have. You know, and it is beautiful, but after like a month, you're like, all right, I gotta get out of here. Like that's why if you can design your life where you can go experience places like that, like get that recharge, enjoy the relaxation. Like the beautiful thing is, you know, like I just remember laughing all the time. Like if it was too hot one day, because I was in there in summer, like August, super hot. There's tons of tourists there. Yeah. Like the whole place is basically Germany for August. But if it gets too hot, and then like as a form of like being begrudging to like tourists, even though they need them, they just close their shops in the middle of the day without any notice. So like you're like, oh, I need to like get in the store and buy something, and like the owner has the door locked and is sitting outside with the table drinking like iced wine. And you're like, bro, like I need to get in here, and they're like, no. Which America is like 24/7 commerce. Like, what do you need? I'm selling it right now. So like if it's too hot there, they just pull the plug. Yeah, which is great, but also annoying. But as a tourist, you're like, I love this.
That's amazing. So tell me, we talked about this before. I thought you had Italian citizenship. Mom lied to me. But I was looking into it, and I'm going to talk to someone else about it because we're eligible. And it's this idea of it's like by blood. Like since we can say, okay, dad's grandfather we're both born there, and they never renounced their Italian citizenship, and they came so late that it's good. Do you want to do it?
Oh yeah, no, I've always wanted to do that. One reason is who doesn't want 2 passports? That's gangster. Yeah. And 2, like if I ever need to bounce out of America, like I can go pick shrubs in Italy and be just fine. It's like hilarious. Yeah, there's definitely no Home Depot there. But no, I do want to do it. I'm sure we could finesse our way in. Italy is also very funny because they're like, you want to give us money, we'll do it. Yeah. Like they're down for a bribe, you know what I mean? They're down. So like, there's
no Italian ancestors.
You do not have to worry at all, especially people in the South. Like, I'll leave you with, well, I don't know if we want to keep going, but there's another funny story where like, I remember trying to get out of Italy, come back home. So as an American, you're allowed 90 continuous days.
Okay. And just to stay there. Yeah. Oh,
yeah, without a visa. Yeah, so you can just go, no, like, hey, I'm coming, and like stay for 90 days. And everyone back then, would take the ferry to Croatia from southern Italy because it was super close. They'd stay in Croatia for 2 days, come back another 90. So all the Americans that were living there would do this. And there was some other like little places in Europe where you could do the bounce back. Now I think they got rid of that. But when I was there, I would just disregarded all of the 90-day thing. That's who I am. People told me that I should fly out of Napoli because they don't care, which is true. So I remember going through the airport in Napoli and I had like my US passport, and this is like some privilege of being from America with like that fancy blue passport, and they just looked at it and they're like, whatever. They went like this, and they like didn't even stamp it or anything. So like I never even officially left. I was never there. So I was like, that is hilarious. Like, you guys are just the funniest country. Like a German airport would be like, we need to see the passport. And like in Napoli, they're like, whatever. This guy's probably fine. I'm gonna risk my job. Like, I'm not.
We're closed for lunch.
Yeah, we don't do that right now. We're not stamping. There's so many cool areas. Like Lake Como is a really famous lake north of Milan, and that's where like lots of famous people go. But there's like, if you ever see those cool images of like the old wooden Italian like speedboat with like people sitting on the back, like that's in Lake Como.
Oh yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah, that's like a super beautiful area. Obviously, like the Italian Dolomites, which are like the Alps. Yeah. Then there's like islands, there's Sicily, Capri. There's like so much coastline, and because of all the factioning heritages over the years of like fighting over who has what, like every 100 miles is another like new castle of some other lord that was there. And it's actually hilarious. This is hilarious. Yeah, there's a town now called Cinque Terre, which is like all one thing. It's called 5 like terraces or 5 towns. Each one of those 5 areas was like a different king. And they were all on the coast, and they would all fight each other. But like, how are you? Yeah, it like never worked. So it just like eventually became one area. But now you can like walk through all of them, and it's all on the coastline.
Much different than being here.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. This red bullet train, and then there's like the slow, cheap clunker trains, which are like these super, and like the disparity is like so stark. But I didn't have anybody, so I was on like the beater trains. And it's like way slower and the routes are clunky, but like all roads do lead through Rome. So like all the trains come to Rome, and then from Rome they like go back out again. So I went from like Milan to Rome, then down to Napoli. But I remember when I stayed over in Rome, I, through just some random friends of friends, got a place to stay for the night. So I was like staying at a friend of a friend's house.
In Rome.
Yeah, in Rome. I went to the Vatican, so I like had a little bit of time to like do some fun stuff there. So I remember that. And then I was like about to fly home, but all my clothes were disgusting. So there's a laundry machine at this house, and it's all like Italian, and like I don't know how to use it, and the appliances are different and everything. Yeah. But I got the laundry going, but I could never get the door to unlock.
For your clothes.
Yeah. So I didn't know this, and like most of the dryer laundry things are the same unit in Europe. Yeah. So like all my clothes are just locked in the washer, and I spent like hours trying to unplugging it, trying to reset it, and eventually I just had to like give up. No. Yeah, so all I had was a bathing suit and like a beater tank top, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna do my laundry for the trip. Yeah, exactly. So I had to like abandon my clothes and like barely made the next train to get to Napoli to get on my flight.
Those poor people came home
and saw your nasty
so I was
clothes.
Like traveling around Europe with no clothes and money, and I was like, what am I doing?
Do you ever look up to see how to open it? Don't you want to know?
It was like defective. Like I'm almost certain. It wasn't you. No, I don't think so. It was like the door. I did everything I could, but all my clothes were trapped in this washing machine that I just had to like bounce from, and I like didn't even know how to communicate that with anyone. So that was a funny way to like leave the country.
I feel bad I never went to anything.
I mean, you could just go, like, just do it. Like, that's all I did. I had no idea who I was meeting. I never knew anyone's faces before I met them. barely could speak Italian. I just like went there, and the thing I will say is like they will accept you with open arms. Like if you made it all the way to visit them, they'll just adopt you. Like I lived with these people for weeks. They were like trying to find me someone to marry already, and I was like, "Yo, this is like getting so deep." I was like, "I actually have to bounce." I would like we could communicate enough, yeah.
Wow.
That's how I felt going to Louisiana, where I'm like, okay, there's people alive who remembered Lola, like they lived with her and knew her, and I wanted to talk with them and connect before it's like then there's no more connection, anything. It's over.
Like after that generation,
It's done. Unless we decide to keep connecting. I feel like I've been doing Louisiana, which has at times has felt like a foreign thing. I go down, I don't know what they're saying. But I'm glad that you did Italy. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pound.
All right.